Hey there, MST family. This is the chosen ones.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay. My name's Jonathan Reyes.
I'm Matthew Rodrigopulle.
I'm Juan Soriano.
And I'm Ashton Wilks.
And you're about to watch our culminating performance task for Fahrenheit 451. So, as a short notice, this is an abridged version of our Prezi for the sake of time. So, please sit back and enjoy our presentation, and we'll now begin. First, we have a quotation that will introduce the purpose of our project. Most of us can't rush around, talk to everyone, know all the cities of the world. We haven't time, money, or that many friends. The things you're looking for, Montag, are in the world, but the only way the average chap will ever see 99% of them is in a book. And this is from Fahrenheit 451 on page 82. Rationale. Why did we read the works we read? So we read these to learn about and experience the beauties and truths of the world when we do not have the resources to do so firsthand. When we read, we may laugh or cry, but in both cases, as a global community, we can discuss and challenge what in this world should change and what should remain the same.
And now we have a biography on Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury was born in Waukegan, Illinois on August 22, 1920. An American writer, producer, and editor, Ray Bradbury is renowned for his science fiction and fantasy short stories, along with his works dealing with the topics of social reliance on technology and the dangers technology can come with. At the age of 12, Ray Bradbury decided to become a writer. Due to financial issues, his formal education ended after graduating from a high school in Los Angeles in 1938. Persistent on his role of becoming a writer, Bradbury spent many nights during the years of 1938 to 1942 selling newspapers on LA street corners, spending his nights in the public library and his time during the day on his typewriter. Later in 1943, he became a full-time writer, creating short stories. His famous works, such as The Sun and Shadow and Fahrenheit 451, have earned him distinguished awards such as the Benjamin Franklin Award and the Gold Medal, Commonwealth Club of California. In addition to his literary works, Ray Bradbury has also worked on television, theater, and cinema works, earning him a nomination for an Academy Award for his short film, Icarus Montgolfier, Right, and granting him an Emmy Award for his teleplay of The Halloween Tree. Well into his elderly life, Ray Bradbury continued to write, having the same feelings he had of excitement and happiness, rushing to his typewriter every morning, having been full of a great sense of joy and glad for the long life that is being allowed. Ray Bradbury died on June 5, 2012 in Los Angeles, California, but continues to shape and influence the lives of society and culture today.
Summary of Fahrenheit 451. Part 1. The Hearth and the Salamander. Fahrenheit 451 opens up on protagonist Guy Montag, a fireman, who lives in a futuristic and dystopian society in the United States. Unlike the firefighters of today, Montag and his co-workers set fire to books, an item deemed as contraband. The first impression of Montag is a man passionate about his work, but this perception begins to change when Montag meets Clarice McClellan, a peculiar 17-year-old who encourages Montag to think about life more critically. Over several encounters, Montag feels even closer to Clarice than he does to his wife, Mildred, just another woman who is one of society's slaves to television. Thus, at one fire call to an old woman's home, Montag's newfound curiosity causes him to take a book home in secret. Made uneasy by this disgraceful action to his work, Montag calls in sick and makes a vow to never return to work again. One night, Montag receives a fervent pounding on his door, and he knows that it must be Beatty, the captain of the fire department, ready to burn the contents of his home. Frightened, Montag does not open his door and reveals to Mildred an extensive collection of books, which he says he must read before the night ends. Part 2. The Sand and the Sieve. Montag, driven mad by his inability to understand the books, visits Faber, an old man who was previously an English professor. Faber is threatened by Montag to help him in a plot to print and plant books in all firemen's homes so that they would be burned. Faber introduces Montag to an in-ear radio technology, which allows them to communicate in secret. Upon returning home, Montag finds his wife with her two friends and reads them a poem, which causes one friend to cry and the other to condemn the destruction caused by books. Faber convinces Montag to leave the scene at his home and head to the firehouse. Once there, Montag is met by Beatty, who edges him on with quotations from books, explaining how wrong they can be. Moments later, the department gets a call, and they all head off. They arrive at Montag's home. Part 3. Burning Bright. Beatty tells Montag that it was his wife who reported him for having books, which means that he will be arrested, but not before Beatty forces Montag to burn down his own house. With the flamethrower in hand, Montag kills Beatty with it and flees the scene to Faber's house. Faber's last advice for Montag is to start a fugitive life. Therefore, Montag jumps into the river in order to escape authorities and follows it downstream. At the end of the line, Montag meets a group of like-minded men who make a countrywide society where books are memorized. Together, these men take cover from the war while the rest of the world does not even recognize what is going on around them. With the rest of the world destroyed, Montag and the others discuss the promise of the future, its rebirth, which can only be carried out through the realization of past mistakes.
As a group, we thought that The Voice of Fire by Barnett Newman effectively captures the plot of Fahrenheit 451 through the symbolism of the divisions of its color. So the first blue bar can be interpreted as Fahrenheit 451 being introduced as a utopian society, where Guy Montag loves his job and seems happy with life. The red color of the second bar signifies the transition into the dystopian and harmful society. In parts 1 and parts 2 and 3, Montag finally becomes aware of the destructive nature of the world around him. The final bar reverts to the blue of the first bar and represents the novel's conclusion, the image of rebirth of Montag's society for the better.
Here we have 25 novel terms from Fahrenheit 451. One example is pratfall, noun, an embarrassing failure or mistake. Miley Cyrus's twerking was a major pratfall. Another example is gilded, adjective, wealthy and privileged. Due to her work in the Disney Channel television show Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus was gilded since a very young age.
And now for the literary terms glossary. Plot, the series of events which make up the action of the story.
Narrative point of view, the angle from which the story is told. The novel Fahrenheit 451 is told in a limited omniscient third-person perspective, as the novel really only goes into depth when exposing the thoughts and mindset of protagonist Guy Montag. Protagonist, the main character of the story, often the hero. The protagonist in Fahrenheit 451 is Guy Montag, a fireman who burns books for a living. Irony, a contrast between appearance and reality. Irony is located throughout Fahrenheit 451, but most evidently in book-bashing though book-educated firefighter Beatty. After finding out about Guy Montag's spark of interest in books, Beatty goes on to confront Montag, saying how it corrupts his mind having Montag think he was the lord of all creation. However, Beatty himself is quite familiar with books, going on to state that he himself read a few books in my time, Beatty's life, and has actually went as far as analyzing the books. Can we cut 15?
Archetypes, ancient patterns of personality that are shared heritage of the human race. The mentor, a figure who aids or trains the protagonist, giving them knowledge, protection, and other gifts. An example of a mentor in Fahrenheit 451 is Faber. As an older and more experienced man who knew life before the rejection of literature, Faber is able to give Montag insight on how to better understand the meaning of books. In addition, Faber is willing to risk his own life in order to protect Montag when he is wanted by authorities.
Key course theme. For each theme, we have a short clip that displays the main idea of each theme.
Matt, this is Ryan, copy. Matt, this is Ryan, copy. Matt, I made it. I'm here. I'm on the station. Do you copy? Come on, Matt, talk to me. Tell me where you are. Give me your position. Where are you? Give me a visual. Just tell me what you see. This is Mission Specialist Ryan Stone reporting from the ISS. All communications with Mission Commander Matthew Kowalski have been lost. Radio transmission absent. Visuals non-existent. To confirm, I, Ryan Stone, am the sole survivor of STS-157.
Isolation is the separation or seclusion from the rest of society by an individual, and this can be either self-inflicted or forced upon by society. A majority of the time, isolation leads to further issues for the individual such as depression, frustration, and rash decision-making. In Gravity, astronaut Ryan Stone is driven to an abysmal sadness when she concludes that her partner in space has been lost and is probably dead, which means that she is isolated in space with a very slim chance of ever returning to Earth.
It's like I can't trust anyone anymore.
Why are you eating the Caltine bar?
I'm starving.
Man, I hate those things. Coach Carr makes us eat those when we want to move up a weight class.
What?
They make you gain weight like crazy.
Mother... This girl is the nastiest skank bitch I've ever met. Do not trust her. She is a fugly slut.
Destructive characters are individuals who are ready to stir up chaos in their society, especially when they do not get what they want. Destructive characters usually pose as a foil to the protagonist's values and successes. Additionally, destructive characters may be willing to put themselves at risk to follow through with their plans. In Mean Girls, Regina George proves to be a destructive character who seeks revenge when she feels targeted or humiliated. Regina even goes out to frame another person in order to get this revenge. Yep.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh my God. Chris. Wait. Lydia, come on. We gotta call the cops. We gotta dial 911 now. Why? Well, Mrs. Doubtfire. He's a she. What? He's half man, half woman. What? Yes, I swear.
All right, what? Now just calm down.
Christ.
Just relax, please.
He's gonna get it in the balls.
Yeah.
She's got him. She's got everything.
All right, listen to me. I'm not who you think I am.
Dad?
Yeah.
Dad?
Yeah.
You don't really like wearing that stuff, do you, Dad?
Well, some of it's comfortable. No. It's a pain in the padded ass. This is not a way of life. It's just a job. I don't go to old lady bars or anything like that after work, you know? No, it's the only way I could see you guys every day.
Who did this?
Uncle Frank and Aunt Jack.
It's really you in there.
Yeah. It's just a mask. And this is a bodysuit. I didn't have any operations or anything.
It's good.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh.
Throughout literary and artistic works, there are characters and ideas which involve disguises and irony. Deceiving appearances center around events turning out unexpectedly, as well as symbols changing meaning. In Mrs. Doubtfire, the Hillard children are shocked to discover that their babysitter, an old lady, was actually their father. Eventually, after the disguise is revealed, the Hillard children realize the benevolent intentions of their father for masking himself with the deceiving appearances.
Those are Nimbus 2001s. How did you get those?
A gift from Draco's father.
You see, Weasley, unlike some, my father can afford the best.
At least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in. They got in on pure talent.
No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudblood. She'll pay for that one, Malfoy. Eat slugs!
You okay, Ron? Say something.
Who's Ron trying to curse anyway?
Malfoy. He called Hermione... well, I don't know exactly what it means.
He called me a mudblood.
He did not.
What's a mudblood?
It means dirty blood. Mudblood's a really foul name for someone who is muggle-born, someone with non-magic parents, someone like me. It's not a term one usually hears in civilized conversation.
See, the thing is, Harry, there's some wizards, like the Malfoy family, who think they're better than everyone else because they're what people call pure blood.
That's horrible. It's disgusting.
Prejudice is the act of developing a preconceived idea about a person or group of people, often without much first-hand knowledge. Prejudice is often negative and is used to discriminate against and stereotype certain groups. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Draco Malfoy makes prejudiced remarks against Ron Weasley for his poorness, classism, and against Hermione Granger for her family background, racism.
You have a train to catch.
We're slowing down.
Justice is the upheaval of fairness in a society, where authority is administered to and chaos is seized. Through justice, heroes often put their lives on the line in order to bring about the common good. Through this clip from Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is seen concentrating all his energy and strength into saving a speeding train from falling off a cliff. Clearly, Peter is risking his own life in order to save the lives of dozens on board.
And now we'll move on to the connections and literary parallels between Fahrenheit 451 and the works studied in class.
First, we have The Help. Prejudice. In The Help, numerous white characters are prejudiced towards black people due to their preconceived beliefs. Specifically, Miss Hilly and her friends are discriminative towards the black maids, as they believe they are dirty people who have diseases. This causes them to be separated greatly from society, especially through the use of black and white toilets. In the novel Fahrenheit 451, prejudice is shown by the society, who shuns those who appreciate books. They believe that literature only has negative effects on people, and they must stop the curious mind from exploring books. Destructive characters. Miss Hilly is a destructive character, as she would like to separate black people from society as much as possible. She does whatever it takes to get her way, including even putting somebody in jail. Similar to Miss Hilly, Beatty in Fahrenheit 451 is a destructive character. Beatty wants to destroy the books in their society, for he is convinced that they are only followed by danger. This only goes against Montag's beliefs in books. Isolation. In The Help, Skeeter is isolated from her friends once they find out about her support for maids. Eventually, she realizes that she must leave her hometown of Jackson, Mississippi, in order to live more true to her beliefs. Similarly, in Fahrenheit 451, Montag is isolated by society after his curiosity for books is discovered. He is shunned from society and later on must run away to save his life.
Next we have Inherit the Wind by Jerome Lawrence and Robert E. Lee. Destructive characters. In Fahrenheit 451, the character Captain Beatty is seen as the antagonist throughout the novel because he is constantly influencing Guy Montag to burn the houses with books in them even though Montag does not want to. Therefore, he is destructive towards Montag. Beatty is trying to protect the order of the city, but in doing this, he is destroying the information contained in books. In Inherit the Wind, Reverend Jeremiah Brown condemns his own daughter Rachel and anyone else who does not believe in their religion practices. Clearly, in both literary pieces, the destructive characters are prepared to condemn and possibly cause suffering. Isolation. In Fahrenheit 451, Guy Montag is seen as a lonely character when Clarice McClellan asks him if he is happy. Moreover, Montag is completely separated from the other firemen and knows that he must leave the city now that he has been alienated by everyone. In Inherit the Wind, Bertram Cates expresses how he has been struggling during his time of isolation and how everyone looks down on him because of his beliefs. Justice. In Fahrenheit 451, Guy Montag decides that he should kill Captain Beatty after being constantly pressured by him to burn the house when he knew that he should not do it. Meanwhile, justice is delivered to Matthew Harrison Brady of Inherit the Wind when he dies of a busted belly, which represents justice being served to those who are ignorant. As evidenced by these two scenarios, a justice is achieved through the death of the antagonist. In both cases, these deaths signal a turning point for society when extremists will slowly dissipate.
Now we have To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Deceiving Appearances. By part 2 of Bradbury's novel, Guy Montag is fully aware that he hates his job as a firefighter, but at the same time knows that he must go along with the department's burning so that they would not be suspicious of his growing interest in books. On the other hand, in Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, protagonist Scout marvels when she discovers the double life of her babysitter and surrogate mother Calpurnia. Bradbury and Lee prove that there is a time and place to be less genuine with oneself, perhaps by speaking or acting differently in order to adhere to societal norms. Destructive characters. In Bradbury's science fiction novel, the agony of having to suppress the thirst for knowledge is enough to make Guy Montag release his frustrations out on Captain Beatty, the man who condemns Montag's interests in books. Likewise, Boo Radley of Lee's great American novel was a recluse, and so had very few to speak to, and very few to learn right judgment from. As a result, when Boo sees Scout and Jem Finch being attacked, he rushes out of his house to stab the attacker, killing Bob Ewell. Justice. After the events of the Tom Robinson trial, Bob Ewell of To Kill a Mockingbird posed a huge threat to the rest of Maycomb, promising death to Atticus, Jem and Scout Finch, and Helen Robinson. Meanwhile, in Fahrenheit 451, Captain Beatty stood as a man who would allow people to die without any change in emotion. Thus, the deaths of these characters signify a reinvigoration of safety into society, with one less individual who will let others die. What is just about their deaths is the idea of karma. Those who wanted to hurt and kill others receive death as their fate.
Finally, we have William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. Deceiving appearances. In The Merchant of Venice, Shylock attempts to worship and praise a judge in order to get what he wants, when really, all along he was trying to woo the judge into allowing him to basically take the life of Antonio. Similarly, in Fahrenheit 451, we find Captain Beatty to be a man who has a strong hate for books when he himself has a great knowledge about books, admitting that he himself has actually read a couple. Prejudice. A multitude of characters in The Merchant of Venice exhibit biased behavior and segregation towards the Jewish community, more specifically towards Shylock. In Fahrenheit 451, people who involve themselves willingly to books are viewed as thinking themselves as lords of creation, egotistic. Justice. In Ray Bradbury's novel, justice is evident when main character Guy Montag is able to escape a society which aids him in promoting books in a society where they are shunned. Like this, in The Merchant of Venice, the Christians have prevented one of their own merchants, Antonio, from being killed by a revenge-hungry Jew, Shylock. Furthermore, in both literary pieces, justice comes in the form of great responsibility for one's actions, with both protagonists facing their fate without revealing cowardice.
Here are our connections to news reports. Violent, Dr. Seuss book should be banned from library, patron says. On the Toronto Public Library's annual list of potential books to be banned is Dr. Seuss's 1963 children's book, Hop on Pop. Patrons claim that the book is a bad influence to children, for it encourages assault on fathers. This attempt at censorship by the Toronto Public Library is very closely related to the censorship present in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. In Bradbury's novel, Captain Beatty explains that a book is a loaded gun in the house next door. Burn it. In both instances, society feels as though they need to protect each other by removing books, which they are paranoid will cause violence among the rest of the community. While the real-life scenario is much less severe compared to Fahrenheit 451, it can be looked at as a step towards Guy Montag's dystopian society of censorship. Thus, readers of Fahrenheit 451 can take this piece of news as a warning of society's potential for absurdity. Our second news report is Rob Ford caught on video in violent rant. Throughout 2013 and 2014, Mayor Rob Ford of Toronto has been seen taking part in much tomfoolery throughout the GTA. Some of the inappropriate acts that news reporters have claimed Mayor Ford doing include crack cocaine smoking, firearm possession, and frequent chaotic drunken episodes. This reputation that Rob Ford has formed is disgraceful and is far from the behavior expected from someone of high authority. Thus, Ford easily displays the theme of deceiving appearances, the irony between one's first expectations and the reality of the situation. In many ways, Mayor Ford parallels Reverend Jeremiah Brown of Inherit the Wind, since both are authorities which should be looked up to, yet both have personalities that are not beneficial to society. Mayor Ford allegedly uses drugs for recreation, while Reverend Brown condemns the society of Hillsborough for their infidelity towards the Bible. Additionally, both figures can be considered as destructive characters who may corrupt society if changes are not made.
So finally, we have our connections to poetry. And for each of the 2 poems we're looking at, we have 2 creative films that we made ourselves. So we hope that you enjoy them. And now we'll move on to the first one, The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth.
The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth. Up, up, my friend, and quit your books, or surely you'll grow double. Up, my friend, and clear your looks, why all this toil and trouble? The sun above the mountain's head, a freshening luster mellow, though all the long green fields has spread his first sweet evening yellow. Books, 'tis a dull and endless strife, come, hear the woodland linnet. How sweet his music on my life, there's more of wisdom in it. And hark, how blithe the throstle sings, he too is no mean preacher. Come forth into the light of things, let nature be your teacher. She has a world of ready wealth, our minds and hearts to bless. Spontaneous wisdom breathed by health, truth breathed by cheerfulness. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil and of good, than all the sages can. Sweet is the lore which nature brings, our meddling intellect misshapes the beauteous forms of things we murder to dissect. Enough of science and of art, close up those barren leaves. Come forth and bring with you a heart that watches and receives.
In brief, our analysis is that the speaker is an eccentric, energetic man who is prepared to go outside and enjoy the beauty of nature. This speaker exists alongside an introverted man who loves books and is somewhat oblivious to the beauty that the speaker knows so well. In general, the tone of Wordsworth's poem is lighthearted. The speaker seems to be quite elated to introduce his friend to nature's beauty, almost pleasantly surprised that he did not know of it beforehand. The theme of this poem is that true maturity means teaching yourself about how the world works through experience and not through learning from others. Connecting the poem to Fahrenheit 451, both literary works begin with a character that is skeptical and unwilling to challenge their boundaries. In The Tables Turned, one character is introduced as a bookworm who is reluctant to experience anything outside of literature. This connects to Fahrenheit 451's Guy Montag, who has no real interest in breaking out of his book-hating self. Most notably, both pieces center around a setting where books are rejected for being too uninteresting. In Wordsworth's poem, the speaker attempts to convince a bookworm into stepping away from literature in order to learn by experiencing nature around him. Meanwhile, in Bradbury's novel, Guy Montag's dystopian society is largely caught up with television, war, and the burning of books. And now we'll move on to Alone by Edgar Allan Poe.
By Edgar Allan Poe.
From childhood's hour I have not been, as others were I have not seen, as others saw I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken, my sorrow I could not awaken, my heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life was drawn. From every depth of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, From the sun that round me rolled, in its autumn tint of gold. From the lightning in the sky, as it passed me flying by. From the thunder and the storm, and the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view.
To sum up the analysis, the speaker of Alone is a man of considerable age, definitely not a child, and living in the autumn of his life. The speaker is mature and has seen the realities of this world, and he knows that there are terrible things within it, and he appears to be the only character of the poem. Alone starts off with a speaker who knows, even in his childhood, that he does not think or feel the same as anybody else. The speaker describes having a gloomy life, with time quickly passing by, as he loved things alone. The theme of the poem is that being misunderstood and unempathized with is the worst form of isolation. So lastly, we are going to connect Edgar Allan Poe's poem Alone to Fahrenheit 451. And both brilliant literary pieces relate in terms of the theme of isolation, as represented throughout the poem and the beginning and middle of Fahrenheit 451. Made clear are the dark days that the respective worlds have come to. Both emphasize and criticize loneliness, with both protagonists feeling misunderstood, feeling that they have been born into a society which cannot empathize with their inner beliefs. It is evident that both Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 and Edgar Allan Poe's poem Alone effectively shed light on the negative effects of isolation on the human psyche, while sustaining a serious understanding of it.
To conclude our Prezi, Fahrenheit 451 is thematically interconnected to novels, plays, and poems of unique genres and can be seen reflected in the current events of our world. More importantly, through this science fiction novel, Bradbury challenges a worldwide audience to reconsider the importance and necessity of books in society. I guess that is all for our presentation. Thanks for watching! This has been a presentation by Jonathan Reyes, Matthew Rodrigopulle, Juan Soriano, and Ashton Wilks. Bye!